Hello and welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to be tackling make, do, and mend. It's so much better to fix what you have instead of buying new, especially for clothes. Clothing is one of the biggest contributors to waste in our modern society because of fast fashion, things going in and out of fashion so fast, so cheaply made too, that everything just falls apart. I have a dance on the weekend and I want to wear this dress, but I want to feel more comfortable in it, so I'm going to dye it darker. This is the Roberts Wood bow dress. I made this about a year ago. I love this dress. It's just a little too bright for me. I tend not to wear it because I don't really like this blue color. I have some black dye that I got from RIT. I am not sure if this fabric is 100% natural materials or less than 35% synthetic. So this is kind of an adventure because I don't know if this is going to work, but we will try it together. So I'm going to try for the first time dyeing this in my washing machine. There is instructions for how to do that on the RIT website, especially for RIT's just normal line, not the Dye More line for synthetics. You can do that in the washing machine and it won't stain your washing machine. If you use the Dye More line, they don't explicitly say that it'll dye your washing machine, but they also say that it may not dye your fabric. It's the next day. I didn't end up filming any of the dyeing process, not really for any particular reason except for that I forgot that I was filming it. It was pretty simple though. I have a top-loading washer, set it on the correct load size with the hottest water temperature and filled it. I kept the lid open so that it wouldn't start the cycle. Added the fabric, which I had already put through a wash cycle so that it was damp. It's very important that your fabric is damp when you go to dye it so that the dye seeps into the fabric evenly. I kept the lid open and the fabric just sitting in there for an hour. I closed the lid and let the cycle run, and then right away I started another cycle. I put it in the dryer and now I'm washing my washing machine with bleach, and then I'm going to put another load through just with water. The dress is not black. It's definitely a synthetic material. When I first saw this color, I thought it like, oh, that's fine, you know. It's at least darker and not so bright. I don't know, it just looks dull and boring. I'm gonna have to think about it. For now, what I'm gonna do is do the other things that need to be done on this dress, and then if I am still unhappy with the color, I will try dyeing it with the synthetic dye that I have. This polka dot fabric is pretty cheap. It was a skirt that I got at the thrift store. I wanted to use it because it's sheer, and I think that that's really pretty, and that's like the appeal of the Roberts Wood dresses. There's loose bits, and so I want to fix those, and I think how I'm gonna fix it is just by threading it onto a needle and then pulling it to the wrong side of the dress so that it's not visible anymore from the right side. So that should be relatively quick to do. I want to remove these plastic snaps. I got these snaps a few years ago and I wanted to use them up, but they don't function very well. Some of these don't even close. I don't love the color, and I also think that it makes the entire dress look just a bit cheaper, which I've put so many hours into making this dress. It was not my intention to make it look cheap. I think I want to put in some metal snaps. I think if I just bang them with a hammer on some concrete, the plastic will snap and I should be able to pull them off and then replace them. I'm just realizing that the fabric might be undyed under these snaps. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Did manage to get two out. I was hammering it on a brick that's in here, and I accidentally smashed the brick in half, which I should have figured would happen. It still surprised me. I have to go outside. We have a vise out there that I can use as a metal surface to hammer on. I do think that the fabric is pretty damaged. I might have to sew more fabric down the front to mend these holes, so that's manageable. Yeah, I messed up. I didn't realize that using the hammer caused the plastic to cut the fabric here. So now I have the joyous task of figuring out how I'm going to patch all of these minuscule holes that the plastic cut in the material. I have none of this fabric left. I don't even know if I have anything that will go with this. Yay. I think I've come up with a plan to fix this. I have options. I found this fabric and this fabric, which are both blues that are kind of close to the dyed fabric, but I feel like they're kind of too rich of a color. And so I also laid out these three threads. This middle one I think matches this pretty well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash the dress again because there is some rust on here from that metal that I used to break these plastic things. Lightweight stabilizer behind all of the holes. I'm just going to darn over it. I think that that is a pretty simple fix. I'm pretty disappointed by the mistake that I made here with the holes. It's okay. The whole point of this video was how to mend your clothes, and so now you get to see me darn something. I'm still not sure what to do for the button placket because there's some pretty big holes there. I'll darn everything first and then we'll make plans from there. Hi, it's been 4 weeks since I last talked to you, and I figured it's time for me to give you an update. I did end up mending that dress. I did a lot of research on different ways to mend. I read the Make, Do and Mend book that the British government handed out in the Second World War. I found it very interesting. After reading that, I darned the holes on the one side of the dress, the side that didn't get so many cuts in it, and I darned on the right side of the fabric and I darned on the wrong side of the fabric. I think that turned out pretty well. The first one I did with that sewing thread that I showed, but I didn't like how that turned out. That thread is pretty stiff and the color I thought was perhaps too dark, so I moved on to embroidery floss in this pearly blue color. I think that it looks very nice. I did some more research. I researched shashiko and visible mending from the Japanese perspective, and I decided to go with that method for the other side of the front of the dress. What I did was I got a scrap of fabric that used to be a bed sheet and I cut it so that it fit the shape of the piece that needed to be mended, and I tucked under all the raw edges on the wrong side and I sewed that down with a whip stitch so it's pretty invisible from the right side of the fabric, basically patching the interior of the material so that I have a solid base. And then I just did stitching diagonally this way along the whole panel and then diagonally this way along the whole panel, and that covered up all of the holes. My shashiko isn't the neatest. In fact, I don't know if I would even call this shashiko because I did not follow the basic tenets of shashiko, which is none of your threads are supposed to cross and all your stitches are supposed to be relatively even. My stitches are not even and my threads crossed, but I still think that this turned out very nice. From a distance, you probably can't even see that this has been mended. Once you get close, you can see that it's been mended, but it doesn't look bad. It is the end of March right now, and I plan to wear this dress to a dance that we're putting on for the union on April 12th. I just need to attach the metal snaps to the button placket and then this dress will be done. I do also have a shirt that needs to be re-hemmed. You will have seen by now my underwear making video where I also made a t-shirt from a free pattern, the Stellan tee, and I talked in that video about how I wanted to try to use a twin needle to hem the hem, but I didn't have a twin needle at the time and my craft store was closed, so I ended up doing a zigzag stitch. And I really don't like how that turned out. So I have to stitch rip that entire hem, and I have since acquired a twin needle. I will be redoing my hem with the twin needle. It's April 2nd. I can't remember the last time that I talked to you. It's been a while though. Today is the day that I need to finish mending, making do with my bow dress. All I have to do to finish this dress is to add some snaps. I have these lovely pearlescent snaps that I got at the thrift store a few years ago, and I've used them actually on my bow shirt dress. Oh, hi. I've used them on my bow shirt dress and they worked really well for that. I'm going to do 7 because that's how many were on there before, and so that'll cover up all those darning holes that I made. Whoops, wrong way. We have another conundrum. The bottom part of the snap is this fabric is too thick because I added more fabric here to reinforce this side. The snaps won't work. So I think what I'm going to do is stitch this whole placket closed just up to here because I only need it up to here open so that I can get my head through. That's mine, rude. So yeah, I'm gonna stitch it to there so that I can get my head through, and then these will just be decorative snaps because I'm not gonna pull them off again. My cat really likes buttons, so he's trying to walk away with the snaps. He's a button thief. Hi! I hope this framing is okay. This room is in flux right now as my husband is putting the finishing touches on the walls. Let's finish off this video. My husband has decided he wants to bike to work in the summers to save a bit of money and to get a bit of exercise. Last year, I thrifted him a vinyl jacket from the 80s so that he could wear that when we're going camping. And instead of buying a proper biking jacket, I decided to transfer this into something a little bit more visible for while he bikes to work. I ordered some fluorescent reflective ribbon online, and I just so happened to already have matching thread. I sat in the park with my husband while he was fishing, and I sewed the ribbon on by hand. I sewed the last of the ribbon on while we were camping, and so this footage is a little bright, but I have some better footage coming up, I promise. While we were camping, I decided to remove the branding from the breast. That took hours of stitch ripping, but partway through I discovered that I could unzip the lining of the jacket, which made the process a whole lot easier. When I finally finished, the fabric was pretty ragged, so I attached an iron-on patch on the interior of the jacket between the lining and the exterior fabric, and his jacket was done. For my t-shirt that I mentioned earlier, I think that the problem isn't so much that I didn't use a twin needle to hem it. I think that the problem is more that I didn't fold the hem twice. So when the hem inevitably flips up, you can see the serging there, and that just looks messy. I stitch ripped the hems of the shirt as well as the sleeves and carefully folded and pinned new hems into place and sewed that with a narrow zigzag stitch. I've had my winter coat for about 5 years. I added gussets to the hip when I gained weight, and I took the gussets out again when I lost it again. I also made a hood out of a recycled silk vest and some old canvas pants. A winter coat in Alberta needs a hood. This past year, my husband was exiting the building and he lost his balance, and he grabbed my hanging coat for balance. He saved his balance, but he ripped the little hanging part on my coat. So I had mended this with twill tape initially, but the loop lost all of its structural integrity, so I just cut that off and sewed a new one out of twill tape using the labels that I made. I sewed it with a tight zigzag stitch quite securely. It looks a bit messy on the inside because I couldn't line it up properly because of the hood and all the bulk in that area, but it is barely noticeable on the exterior. A quick 5-minute task that I've been putting off for months. To make my own labels, these are the ingredients I use. This is Speedball block printing ink in black. It's permanent fabric ink that doesn't need to heat set. It just needs to dry for 24 hours. I use twill tape for the labels made from cotton, and it's about a 1/2 inch thick. This is brayer. It is used to smooth the ink so that I can use it to stamp the fabric. These are the stamps I'm going to use today, a bee and a leaf. The leaf I found at the thrift store, and the bee I found on Etsy. These are the labels I've made so far. I keep them in this little wallet. They are great, but they are huge, so I wanted to make a more minimal label for smaller projects. I cut my twill tape into 2.5 to 3 inch long pieces and marked the centers with a pin. I used my denim button box as a palette because it is smooth plastic, and that's important to get the ink really smooth. I squeezed out a small bit of the ink and used the brayer to smooth it out. Next, I carefully stamped the bee and the leaf on each label. Some turned out better than others, but they will all be used. These will fold in half and be tucked in the seam allowance with the bee on top, and when you lift it, you will see the leaf. The last project that I tackled for this video was turning a pair of my husband's trousers into shorts. I wasn't particularly careful about this. I laid them out, laid a pair of shorts that fit him on top, cut just below the shorts so that I had some seam allowance, and sewed them with a double hem. Final thoughts. I think that this dress turned out wonderfully. I wore it to the dance and I felt so magical. Dancing in this dress is a treat. The skirt is so poofy and it frills out perfectly when I spin. This was a definite win. I'm definitely gonna wear this dress more often whenever I have fancy events to go to. And though the mending is visible, I think it's beautiful, so it doesn't matter that it's visible because it's art. It's wearable art. The next thing I worked on was my husband's coat. That was a lot of hand stitching through pretty thick fabric. I do think that this worked out well. He hasn't worn it biking yet because he was in a car accident, so he's been off work, but he has worn it fishing a few times and it's useful for that. The t-shirt I'm very happy with. I'm definitely gonna wear this more now because it looks less homemade. The shorts I did for my husband and simple, elegant. It just works. The labels are probably my favorite part of this because it's so much cheaper. Everything that I was looking at to buy my own labels was really expensive, and I wasn't sure how ethical it was because you don't know where those are made and how much the people who are making it are getting paid. So I figured it was cheaper just to buy the materials and making them myself. And then they're so customizable, it's awesome. All of the labels that I made used barely any of the ink, so I still have so much of that left over. I'm very pleased with all of these make, do, and mend projects. I'm glad to get rid of my mending pile. I'm also glad to make do with my husband's biking coat. Instead of buying a new thing, I took a used thing and made it what I needed it to be. I hope that you found this video inspiring. It took months and months to make because today is August 1st. You're not going to see this the 7th. I started this video in March, so it was a long time coming. I was correct when I said that. My next video will be a thrift haul of craft supplies. If you're interested in that, consider subscribing so you can see that. Thanks for being here. I will see you next time. Goodbye.